Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. Have you ever been torn between love and independence? What happens when two people, bound by destiny, must choose between their deepest desires and the peace they've built for themselves? Alex, a successful CEO, has it all, except the one thing he truly wants. Tuna, a woman full of strength and grace, finds herself caught in a web of emotions. But will she let love into her life? As their paths collide, will Alex confess his love before it's too late? Or will Tuna walk away, seeking freedom at the cost of a lifetime of love? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over, and you won't want to miss the twist at the end. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to our channel to help us reach 10,000 followers and be the first to catch every emotional moment in our stories. Don't miss out. Click the bell and join us for the journey. Alex stood quietly by the window, his gaze lost in the fading light of the day. The room around him was still, save for the soft rustling of the leaves outside. In the dim light, Tuna lay on the bed, her face a mix of exhaustion and pain. The silent battle she fought was evident, and Alex couldn't help but feel the weight of her struggle. He stepped into the room, his presence as gentle as a whisper, and silently walked over to her bedside. Without a word, he placed his hand on her forehead, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. "Does it still hurt?" Alex's voice was soft, barely above a whisper, as he searched her eyes for an answer, hoping for something to calm the unease gnawing at him. Tuna's eyes flickered for a moment before she nodded slightly. A faint smile tugged at the corners of her lips, even though the pain was still there. "It's better now. Just a little more time." Her words were comforting, but Alex could see beyond them. The pain was more than physical. It was the weight of her burdens, of the life she had carried on her own for so long. She looked up at him, and in the quiet of that moment, an unspoken understanding passed between them. She didn't need him to solve everything, but just his presence, his care, was enough. "Is there anything you need?" His voice trembled slightly with concern, but she didn't need to answer. They didn't need words. The simple act of being there was all that mattered. Tuna met his gaze, her heart swelling with emotion. She knew then, sometimes, all you need is someone to stay. The soft hum of the evening settled into the room, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling of quiet unrest. He sat by the edge of the bed, his eyes tracing Tuna's tired face. There was something in the air, something unspoken, that weighed heavily between them. The silence felt too loud, like the calm before a storm. Tuna shifted slightly, her hands trembling as she clutched the letter in her lap. She had written it earlier that day, but now, holding it in her hands, the weight of her decision seemed almost unbearable. The time had come to leave. "Alex," she began, her voice soft but firm. She had never imagined that saying goodbye would be this hard. It wasn't about leaving him. It was about finding her own path. "I think I need to go. I need to find a new job, a place to stand on my own." Alex's heart tightened at her words, but he knew deep down this was coming. He had sensed the hesitation in her every glance, the distance she kept. She was scared. She was tired. And the last thing she wanted was to burden him. "But why?" Alex whispered, his voice strained with emotion. His eyes searched hers for any sign that this was just a fleeting thought, but there was no denying the certainty in her gaze. Tuna lowered her head, her breath shaky. "Because I don't want to keep depending on you. You've already done so much for me. I can't stay here, relying on your kindness anymore." The words cut deep, and Alex felt an overwhelming sense of helplessness. He wanted to tell her to stay, that everything could be different. But deep down, he knew she needed this. He needed this. He nodded slowly, taking her hand in his touch tender. "If that's what you need, then go. But please don't forget that I'll always be here, no matter where you go." Tuna blinked away the tears, nodding quietly. She squeezed his hand, then stood, leaving the room to pack her things. Alex watched her go, his heart torn between love and the painful acceptance of her decision. The following morning arrived with a crispness that seemed to mirror Alex's restless thoughts. He sat at his desk, the paperwork in front of him a blur. His mind kept drifting to Tuna, her smile, her quiet strength, the way her eyes softened when she looked at him. She had left the night before, not without a trace, but with a silent promise that things would never be the same again. Alex felt a pang of loneliness settle in his chest as he reached for his phone, his fingers hovering over her contact. He longed to hear her voice, to ask if she was okay, but something held him back. She needed space, she needed time, and most of all, she needed him to let her go. But that didn't mean he had to stop caring. In the quiet solitude of his office, Alex replayed the moments with Tuna in his mind. The way her laugh had filled the room, how they'd spent late evenings talking about everything and nothing at all. He'd never known someone who made him feel so seen, so understood. Yet now, he felt the stark absence of her, like an unfinished sentence. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. It was his assistant, brief but efficient, reminding him of his next meeting. Alex nodded absent-mindedly, pushing the thought of Tuna aside for a moment, but it lingered like a shadow. He knew that what he felt was more than just longing. He had already fallen in love with her, and now, in the quiet of his office, he could finally admit it to himself. The question wasn't whether he loved her. It was whether she would ever be ready to return. As the hours passed and the sun began to set, Alex's resolve hardened. He had to see her again. This time, he would speak the words that had remained locked inside him for far too long. The night was quiet, but Alex's mind raced as he drove towards Tuna's farm. He had spent the entire day thinking, questioning, and reflecting. The weight of his feelings for her had grown unbearable, and he knew there was no turning back. He had to see her, had to tell her everything that had been weighing on his heart. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white. The roads were familiar, but tonight they felt like a path leading him into the unknown. He didn't know what would happen once he saw her again. Would she still feel the same? Or had her decision to leave closed the door between them for good? When he finally arrived, the air was thick with uncertainty. He stepped out of the car, his breath coming in shallow waves, and walked up to the front door. His hand hovered for a moment over the doorknob before he knocked gently, as if the sound of the knock might break the fragile thread of hope he clung to. Tuna opened the door, and for a moment neither of them said anything. There was an undeniable tension in the air, the unspoken weight of everything that had passed between them. She looked at him, her eyes filled with surprise, but also something else. Something deeper, something that mirrored his own uncertainty. Alex spoke first, his voice quiet but firm. Tuna, I've been thinking about you all day, about us, and I can't let you go without telling you this. I love you. Her eyes widened in surprise, and for a moment Alex feared that his words had been too much, too fast. But then, slowly, her lips parted, and a soft smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. I've been thinking about you too, Alex, and I didn't want to leave you. I thought I had to. Alex stepped closer, his heart pounding in his chest. You don't have to leave, not anymore. Let me be there for you. Let me help you. Let's face everything together. The silence that followed was thick, heavy with the weight of their shared emotions. Then, in the stillness of that moment, Tuna nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Okay, Alex, I'll stay, but only if you promise me one thing. He looked into her eyes, the hope in his heart flickering like a flame. Anything. She smiled, her voice steady but full of warmth. Promise me we'll build a future together, one that's filled with love, not just because we're trying to fix the past. Alex reached out, taking her hand in his heart swelling with gratitude and relief. I promise. And in that moment, everything shifted. The past, with all its uncertainty and pain, began to fade into the background. What mattered now was the future. Together, the sun was barely rising the next morning when Alex and Tuna sat together, side by side, in the small garden of her farm. The air was crisp, and the scent of earth and morning dew filled the space between them. It was as if the world was holding its breath, waiting for them to make the next move, to take the first step toward their future. Alex looked at Tuna, the woman who had held his heart without him even realizing it. She was quieter than usual, her gaze focused on the blooming flowers around them. But Alex could see the peace in her eyes. There was something different now, something that hadn't been there before. They were no longer two people caught in a cycle of unspoken words and hidden fears. They had finally broken free. I used to think I needed to do everything on my own, Tuna said, her voice soft, as though the weight of the words had only just been realized. But when you said you loved me, it made me realize that maybe I don't have to. Maybe I can share this journey with someone after all. Alex reached out and gently took her hand, a quiet promise in the touch. You don't have to do anything alone, Tuna, not anymore. Her eyes met his, and in that brief moment, the world around them seemed to pause. She wasn't just seeing him anymore. She was seeing the life they could have together. The laughter, the challenges, the quiet moments like this one. The future that had once seemed so uncertain now felt like something she could finally embrace. What if we build something beautiful together? Tuna asked, her voice laced with hope and a trace of uncertainty. But it was the kind of uncertainty that only came with the possibility of something wonderful. Alex smiled, his heart full. I think we already are. The warmth between them grew, not just from the sun, but from the understanding, the love, and the connection that had been forged through their shared vulnerability. There was no turning back now. Their journey was only just beginning. As they sat in silence, hands entwined, the world seemed to open up in front of them. There were challenges ahead, and the road would not always be easy. But in this moment, as the first rays of the sun touched the earth, everything felt possible. The life they had dreamed of, the life they had both been too afraid to reach for before, was now within their grasp. And for the first time in a long time, Alex felt truly at peace. It had been weeks since Alex and Tuna had made their quiet promises to each other. They had spent their days together, building a life, piece by piece, working through the challenges, cherishing the small moments, and finding solace in each other's company. The tension that had once weighed so heavily between them had faded, replaced by the steady rhythm of a love that felt grounded and true. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. The question that had lingered in his heart for so long, what if this love was meant to last forever, needed an answer. It was time to take the next step, to offer her something more than just words, more than just promises. He wanted to give her something tangible, something that would mark the beginning of their forever. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the landscape, Alex knew it was the right moment. He had planned this day for weeks, but now, standing at the edge of the garden where they had shared so many quiet moments, he felt the weight of it all, the significance, the hope, the love. Tuna was busy tending to the flowers, her back to him, lost in the rhythm of her work. The sight of her, so focused and serene, filled Alex with a deep sense of love and admiration. This was the woman he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. He couldn't wait any longer. He approached her, gently taking her hand, pulling her attention away from the garden. She looked up at him, her eyes soft with curiosity. "Alex, what is it?" she asked, her voice tender but filled with the same quiet strength that had drawn him to her in the first place. He knelt before her, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. His heart raced as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. The air between them seemed to hold its breath as he opened it to reveal a delicate ring, a symbol of everything they had shared, everything they had built together. "Tuna," Alex said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't want to just spend the rest of my life with you. I want to promise you that we will face everything together, no matter what. Will you marry me?" For a moment, Tuna stood there, her eyes wide, taking in the enormity of the question. Alex could see the emotion welling up inside her. Surprise, disbelief, hope, and something deeper. Something that said this was the beginning of a new chapter. Then, slowly she nodded, her voice barely a whisper as she choked back tears. "Yes, Alex. Yes, I'll marry you." And in that instant, everything shifted again. The world around them seemed to melt away, leaving only the two of them, standing on the edge of a future they would build together. The air was still, but in their hearts, everything was in motion. A lifetime of love, of shared moments, of promises yet to be fulfilled. Alex slid the ring onto her finger, and as he stood up, their lips met in a kiss that sealed their promise, a promise that transcended all the uncertainty they had faced before. Now, they were ready for whatever came next. The morning after the proposal arrived with the soft light of a new beginning. Alex woke early, as he always did, but today felt different. There was a warmth in his chest, a quiet joy that had settled deep inside him. The night before, everything had shifted, and now, as the sun crept over the horizon, he felt as though he was waking to a new life. A life filled with promises, love, and a shared future. Tuna, still asleep beside him, seemed peaceful, her face relaxed in the way only true contentment could bring. He watched her for a moment, his heart swelling with affection. She had said yes, and now he couldn't wait to start their life together. He reached over, brushing a lock of hair away from her face, and she stirred, her eyes blinking open slowly. When her gaze met his, something unspoken passed between them. An understanding, a shared knowing that whatever the future held, they would face it side by side. "Good morning," she whispered, her voice still thick with sleep. "Good morning," Alex replied, his heart full of emotion. He couldn't help but smile, the joy of their new beginning radiating from him. "I've been thinking about everything, about us. I can't wait for this new chapter, Tuna. I want to build something beautiful with you every single day." Tuna smiled softly, sitting up and brushing the sleep from her eyes. "Me too. It feels like everything has led to this moment. We've both been through so much, and now I feel like we're finally where we're meant to be." She paused for a moment, her hand finding his, their fingers intertwined, and in that simple gesture, Alex knew that their love was no longer a fragile thing, no longer a delicate promise suspended in uncertainty. It was real, it was strong, and it was theirs. As they sat there together, watching the world outside begin to wake, Alex realized that life would never be easy. But with Tuna by his side, he was ready for anything. Together they had built something beautiful, a love that was rooted in trust, in understanding, and in the quiet certainty that they were meant to be. No more questions, no more hesitation, just the quiet, steady rhythm of two hearts beating as one. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, casting golden light across the earth, Alex knew that this was only the beginning. Thank you so much for watching today's story. We hope it touched your heart as much as it did ours. What do you think will happen next in Alex and Tuna's journey? Can love truly conquer all, or will they face obstacles too great to overcome? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next chapter of our stories. Remember, your support helps us grow. Let's reach 10,000 followers together. See you in the next story. Until then, take care and keep believing in love.